be Moonlight Madness if we get to that 1-1 situation, which it looks like a lot of players have been actually getting to that third game so far in the bracket, which is really fun. I mean, it's a little bit rough when that's Bubba the Cat joining in for the cast.
Joining the cast. Well, I think the biggest thing here, right, is that we've started the tournament with much more even players.
Yeah, there is a lot of pretty high skilled and like master level players. We'll see if there's like that one guy that's just been really grinding out Legacy. I think that's going to be the big factor, is who's been like really grinding out Legacy of the Void and who's got the most games under their belt, because I think they'll have a really distinct advantage over everybody else. Like GameTime, I think he has like 3 Legacy of the Void games. So I said he's like, I was like, Masters question mark. I mean, it's a little bit hard to do seeding for this because some people, like Honeybear, hasn't played Legacy of the Void. I don't think at all. However,
so he's just
you know, when he played Heart of the Swarm, he was top 16 GM if he wanted to, right? So it's really hard to be like, well, I know he's a really high skill player, but you know, I don't know. So it's a little bit wonky, but so it goes.
Well, and I would say, I didn't look at all the matchups, but it's going to matter even more in a mirror matchup, right? The closeness, because you can't do quite as much just sort of straight weird stuff if bar none right now, right? Say you just make roaches, you make 2 ravagers at 6 minutes, and then you win the game. You know, in mirror matchups, a lot we rush to those sort of meta openers much quicker. So the player that's been grinding more, even more so, right, in the mirror matchups is going to do better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. Most certainly. So, our players, we've been talking about them, but I guess we got to intro them, right? So on the right side, he's already got Zerlings coming over to his opponent's base. He's GameTime.
Oh, buddy. And just spotting those lings coming across the map are light blue Zerg, Mia Khalifa, aka Sacrilege, and Heart of the Swarm. You know, we can respect his choice for a name change, right?
I mean, I guess. It's kind of
obviously
we're calling him Sacrilege.
You got it, boss. You don't want to get filtered on.
Yeah, I mean, we might be in a gray zone right now, honestly. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, and Sacrilege is on. I think it's Imperative Gaming is his team. He's been on that team for a long time, so they have a couple of pretty strong players, I think. To be honest,
yeah, Sacrilege.
I feel like I've seen other players, but I don't know if they're Midwest. So I haven't seen them in this particular tournament. But I feel like I have seen a number of other Imperative Gaming players. I just can't seem to recall their names. GameTime, he lost that Overlord. That's pretty kind of a big factor here. I mean, it means that he can't. This is about all that's going to be coming out of his push now that he's supply blocked so strongly. Basically, he's forced to just make Overlords here, and so if Sacrilege is able to hold off these Banelings, which he might be able to, he's evacuated all the Banelings out of.
The Baneling hits on that Queen.
Yeah, I mean not the most efficient, but as it is though, I mean, GameTime has retained a whole bunch of his Zerglings, as well as that. You know, a couple more Banelings coming in, and Sacrilege is just really not ready for this at all. And I mean, I don't. Yeah, I was about to say.
That's a rough start.
I was gonna say, can he hold it? I mean, you can't even really pretend that he has a chance at recovering after that. Unfortunately.
Typing good luck, have fun in the chat was too much chatter in that game for the level of cheese that came there.
Yeah. So GameTime pulls that out real quick. Gets a win on Bridgehead, and it might be that. I mean, I mentioned that GameTime. I don't think he's played any Legacy of the Void matches so far, to be honest.
So it's like, I guess I'll make some lings really early.
Yeah, it's like I know how to ling Bane, and that's still can be very effective. So we might be seeing a lot of that out of him. During this whole tournament, honestly, and we'll see if somebody catches on. You know, the moment that somebody, because there are a lot of Zerg players in in this tournament. I think the moment that, you know, a Zerg opponent of his catches on that he's been cheesy a lot of, you know, a lot of the time. If they catch on and they say, okay, it's time to defend a little bit, or it's time to play a little conservatively,
Right.
they might be able to just go ahead and kind of just almost blindly hard counter him most games. So we'll see if that, you know, if our boy Sacrilege, aka Mia Khalifa, is able to make that that adjustment and pull out a win on here on Terraform on our second game of this best of 3.
And yeah, spawning on the top left
Mm-hmm.
is that yellow Zerg game time.
Going for another early extractor, so it might be the same thing as, I mean, yeah, this is like the classic, I mean, yeah, it's a classic early Ling Bane from Heart of the Swarm, just kind of upgraded a little bit because you start off with 12 workers. It's coming a hell of a lot faster than previously.
If it ain't broke, Kev,
Yep.
don't do nothing to it.
Yep. And Sacrilege choosing, I think he went hatchery first last game, or at the very least he had a very quick hatchery. I think he's, you know, maybe he's thinking it's time to play a little bit more conservatively here, and throws down a spawning pool first. And we'll see if that is able to be effective against GAMETIME's very likely rush that's coming out. I mean, you don't mine this much gas and not do anything with it, so we'll certainly be seeing... Yep, okay, he's continuing to mine gas, so, I mean, Banelings are going to be in pretty short order here once he gets that 50 gas to build a Baneling nest. And really it comes down, I mean, pretty much our strategies have been decided so far. We just have to see. This really comes down to execution, Artarsis. You know, this is one of, I don't know. Anyway, any more insight, Sam?
No, not really. I do remember at Midwest Land, we do have the spine crawler coming down right away in the main. I think that's a pretty smart choice. But I think I remember a handful of gentlemen sitting around theorycrafting, and the conclusion was that there's no reason not to drop your spawning pool first in Legacy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I've seen a lot of high-level Zergs say it's like 13 Overlord, 17 Hatchery is a good choice. I don't know. I certainly haven't tried to run the numbers myself or whatever, and I haven't, you know, been super thorough about seeing other people's analysis of, you know, what's the most efficient opening, this, that, and the other thing. But as we can see already, Sacrilege, you know, being maybe feeling quite a bit more comfortable on his defense. He's already got a lot of Zerglings down. He already has almost an equal number of Banelings. I mean, sometimes in Ling Baneling Wars, the person who has less Banelings actually comes out ahead because you're able to get, you know, those really good connections on the Baneling on Baneling action, bringing GAMETIME's Baneling count much further down. However, still a lot of Zerglings, but the reinforcements of Sacrilege here should be able to clean it up. He hasn't really lost. Has he lost any workers?
No.
Just one so far. Not sure when that was, but it might have been from the natural. But yeah, very much more well done out of Sacrilege so far to hold this off. And as we can see, I mean, already Sacrilege has a higher worker count, and you know, getting a bit of a higher income out of that, and he already has his second base down. So certainly,
yeah. And I don't think we're going to see a hatchery here out of GAMETIME, are we?
Well, he's droning now, though. I mean, hello. That gold base, though. So he's.
That gold base.
I mean, I don't even know how you can make use of a gold base like this, though. To be honest, like, maybe roaches, I suppose. I feel like that's like the option is if he kind of is sneaky and holds off. Maybe he's gonna keep up the pressure on Sacrilege, manage to get a Roach Warren out, and then use that gold base economic advantage to get a whole bunch of roaches and overwhelm Sacrilege. Not too sure though.
Let's just say that is his game winner that he was hoping for at 3 minutes didn't happen this game.
Nope.
So he's got to try something, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
And copying Sacrilege's build from this here on out probably isn't the answer.
yeah, very true. I mean, you do have to do something to put yourself ahead. You have to cut some corners, take some risks somewhere. And Sacrilege hasn't seen that gold base yet, so it as far as Sacrilege, thinks, he assumes this all-in is just continuing. It's still just an all-in. There's no end game plan. There's no step 2 for game time. However, he does have that gold base coming down, so if he's able to keep up this aggression, continue to trade out, I guess, decently efficiently. Oh, that was not efficient at all.
No,
that
6
was
for 1?
Yeah, that was
More like 3.
Yeah, I mean, even regardless, that's not what Game Time wanted. Not getting very good connections with the Banelings onto any of the drones or even many of the Zerglings, and great target firing out of Sacrilege with this this single spine crawler to really be a champion for his people. And so far, I mean, as we can see, I guess like the army supply really not too different between both players. The worker supply is still a decent bit ahead. I'm like a little concerned that Sacrilege didn't start maybe his lair or just some sort of additional tech. He is getting +1. I guess +1 carry base, very good in this sort of situation though. So he still thinks that Game Time is all in though.
He's just trying. He's just trying to go for that game-winning push with Bling Bling.
He should be able to see this little creep from Game Time's gold base. I mean, maybe he just hasn't noticed it yet. I would think that he'd see that little section of creep and say, it's time to take out that sneaky base, right? But I mean, maybe he just hasn't put 2 and 2 together yet or something, or I don't know.
He has to now, right?
He must be. I mean, he's
actively looking at that Overlord.
Yeah. And now we're just going to have a dance of this Ling Bane. I like the Overlord placement over these vision blockers. So at this point in time, Game Time, I mean, he's going to be walking blindly into those bushes, and Sacrilege is able to see on the other side much ahead of his opponent. So he'll be ready when he moves units through those vision blockers. So I really like that move. We'll see if he's able to pick off this gold base. It's looking like he's going to be able to zone out his opponent well enough to pick off the gold, but, I mean, we'll see if these Banelings are able to trade out properly. Still pretty good for Game Time, to be honest. I mean, he's just kind of... The fact that his gold base is still, unharassed... That's not a real word. Still has not been, harassed or abused or anything so far. Really kind of goes into Game Time's favor, and he does have that lair finish, so probably, I guess, maybe I'm still not sure out of Game Time, to be honest. I don't know what this man is doing.
Right.
But we do have a Spire coming out of Sacrilege.
Yeah, that Spire. Do we have enough gases for a Spire?
For Sacrilege?
Yeah, does he really a third base for...
I mean, you can 2-base muta. It's kind of... I mean, this game is... Economy and all of that has kind of gone out the window for both of these players. But I mean, 2-base muta is not impossible. He's not going to have like an overwhelming amount, but he will have, it is still just 2-base against 2-base muta.
That's true.
Not great trades on the Zerglings though. This whole time. I mean, they do have the +1 carry pace, which helps a lot, but it's been a little bit sloppy on Sacrilege's part. I mean, let's see if we can take a look at like total units lost. 83 Zerglings for Sacrilege and only 59 Zerglings for Game Time. Although 30 Banelings lost for Game Time, which is surprising. I thought there would be far more lost for Sacrilege. Actually, Sacrilege had a couple of really good trades, Baneling for Baneling, a bit earlier on, so that makes some sense. And at this point, though, I mean, okay, so Sacrilege's Spire is done. He hasn't made anything out of it yet. I think he's still feeling a little bit too pressured to really switch over into mutas. He's going for this attack at the gold base. He might be able to clean it up. I think the base won't go down, but certainly putting a lot of pressure on the drones is a good thing. A bunch of Banelings having to waddle over, and right now, the good thing here though is that I mean, I think unbeknownst to Sacrilege, he's making he's forcing game time to just make a whole bunch of banelings instead of being able to make mutas out of that gas. So Sacrilege, he should be able to make more mutas than his opponent so far, just because I think he's banked up a lot more gas. So he might be able to have an advantage there, but it's
it's
gonna be
bailing. It's in the middle of that.
These players have got to be getting exhausted from the baneling dancing that we've been doing all game long so far. I mean, it's been like 8 straight minutes of baneling and zergling and drone micro out of both players. But okay.
Game times, they're coming down much earlier. Just
Yeah.
finished up a moment ago. The worker count, though, now is totally even.
Mm-hmm. And we have a few more mutas out of Sacrilege than game time. However, I mean, like you said, that third base, I mean, the natural has finished. So now we have six gas production out of game time, and it's reflected highly in what? Hello?
Look at what game time calls it.
I don't know that he was that far behind. I mean, there must have been a big. Okay, let me.
I mean, I think he just decided that the muta count was off.
I guess
He's gonna lose that base.
I get there must. I think there was a big connection because I'm still on the game screen. It looks like game time. He dropped down to like 45 supply real quick, so there must have been a very major connection going down. And I guess he must have just seen like, okay, I'm a little bit behind in mutas, and being a little bit behind is all you need to lose, I guess, pretty much. Like in muta versus muta wars, just a couple of extra mutalisks out of one player will really swing it in their favor. So overall, a very intense game out of both players. It wasn't super clean, but Sacrilege he anticipated the Ling Bane rush and managed to hold it off. So nicely done out of him. Eventually takes the win. It did. I don't know. It felt like a little bit of an early tap out by game time, but he is a far better player than myself. So he knows he knows when it's over.
Yeah, and game number 3 is Moonlight, I do believe.
Yep, Moonlight Madness. So Moonlight Madness is a weird map. I mean, it's like it feels like there should be a whole lot of shenanigans that go on in Moonlight Madness, Although you don't see too many of them. Well, like
Wait,
I feel like Moonlight Madness, right? It's kind of a weird map, right? It's because it's got like that kind of tucked away base. It's got a bunch of rocks and a bunch of extra paths that you can break down and all of that. So I feel like Moonlight Madness should have a lot of like weird games, but it doesn't too often. I don't know, like in tournament play you don't see a whole lot of like really weird shenanigans out of players on Moonlight. It's usually just like this thing where sometimes like that tucked away third base gets like highly contended for, but oftentimes it just like turns into like a 3 base versus 3 base. I don't know, I'm not sure if you have similar feelings on the map.
Well, I have perhaps more distrust of Moonlight. I avoid it pretty strongly.
Okay.
I think you're right in that we don't see a ton of crazy games in tournaments. I think we'll even see less of them in Legacy, just because I think that the sort of the kinds of third bases aren't quite as crazy in Legacy.
Maybe.
As far as you're trying to get there and just hold on in a lot of matchups.
Yeah.
It's like if you get there and you hold on, in that PvT, PvZ, or TVP, then you're in such a good situation. I think that's a little bit less of an issue in this, but I don't know. I agree with you that I think that it has a lot of potential for some crazy stuff, and we don't quite see that as often. I mean, just look at the fact of how wide the map is. You can have like 7 base versus 7 base, crazy long games here, but we just don't see that very often. I think it's the wide, the many attack paths that you have options for. I think makes it more difficult to drag out a game.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I think I sort of feel like it's a map that's like it hasn't been like used to its like full potential, sort of. Does that make sense? Because like you could try it. You could try and have like, you know, 6-sided harass or something going on, right? But like that's almost impossible for a human to actually do. So I don't know. So far our builds, we are in match point, so both players maybe not going as crazy. They're not going totally ham on each other yet. Game Time has changed up his opener. You know, he was a little surprised that Sacrilege managed to hold on and adapt so quickly, and he said, "All right, I need to." He opened up with it was interesting. It was like a double gas cancel. Man, is my neighbor really? Do you have to mow the lawn right now? Oh no, that's Thra.
That's Thra. I can't hear it at all.
Oh really?
No.
Okay. Well, we'll see. If it gets worse, I'll close the window. And somebody's trying to report to me by whispering me, so that's okay.
I like that they call it a whisper again when you direct message people. It's very exciting.
Well,
I've always thought that's more scandalous, more secretive.
it's
I
always
feel like I could be backstabbing someone, you know? I could like whisper to Kevin.
yeah. I mean, it's always been called whispering, kind of. At least like, what is it, colloquially or whatever?
No.
Is colloquial not the right term there?
No, that is the right word. I really don't think that in StarCraft 2, though, up to this point, I don't think that many people that are new to this series, right, came right in for StarCraft 2, hadn't played before. I don't think a lot of them would have referred to it as a whisper, Kevin. I think the dark circles and the many basements you've been in.
That's true. I've seen some things. I've been some places. All right, we should talk about the game, right? Or try to.
Both players, they're building some stuff.
Building stuff. Yeah, I suppose there's not.
They're looking at pretty similar builds.
Let's get a little.
We do have a third that's just come down, right? That's the big variation so far.
Yeah, I mean, also though, so Sacrilege getting his third, and the +1 armor on his ground units. So maybe looking to stick with Ling Baneling for a little while. He might even consider it a counter for like a Muta opener, which is actually what's going down out of Game Time right now. And actually, this is a Game Time like Heart of the Swarm build too. He did this a lot in other Midwest Cups, where it was open up with Mutas, get like 7 or 8, right? Get his third base down, and then he would switch into Roaches. And Sacrilege might. I mean, both of these players have played in a lot of tournaments together, kind of. I think they've met, I think they've met each other in tournament play pretty often, so Sacrilege might be sort of reading into his opponent's tendencies. I mean, I think I want to see if he knows that there's no, I mean, he's double checking, is there an expansion out of Game Time? Not too sure. He has seen the Spire and the Lair already finished. Well, the Spire not done yet, but it's started. Alright, I'm gonna be a moment. I'm just gonna close my window.
Okay, no problem. This is a glorious timing from Sacrilege. If he's able to get damage done here, and I mean, it all comes down, much like last game, to good mainlane connection. If he's able to get that damage done, he loses a few more lanes than he wanted to there. This is a great timing, right, for this push. That Spire is just so close and yet so far to completing.
Yeah,
nothing in sight really for Game Time. He wants to hold on to some gas, right? So he really wants to limit the number of banelings that he's making, but he also wants to live through the push.
Yeah, and
so that he has 2 bases to support his play beyond it.
You are quite right, Sam. Proud of your insights.
Thank you. A limited number of Mutalists coming in for Game Time, who was able to hold pretty comfortably there. Sacrilege leaving I mean, the most everything he rallied pretty safely that whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I think he sort of needed to commit a little bit more to that push. Maybe not realizing the situation he was in until he has Mutalists flying above him.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, this is sometimes where he's really getting zoned out by those banelings, though. That's the hardest part of it. If he can clear those up without, taking too many bad losses, then he can continue to just rally Zerglings into his opponent's base, but he's not really choosing to. Sometimes that's the power of the +1 Zergling strategy, but he's not quite getting that overwhelming, like, usually with +1 Lings, against the Muta player, you just continue to flood lings, and it doesn't make sense, right? But the fact that your opponent has to continually defend means they don't get to actually use their Mutas. Unfortunately, GameTime's getting some major usage out of these Mutas, killing off a large number of Overlords out of Sacrilege. Supply blocking him pretty hard, and Sacrilege is trying to, you know, eventually tear down these rocks. Thank you, Dustin Browder. And cursing Dustin Browder's name right now as he wants to dive into that third base of GameTime, all the while trying to defend at home. He does have some spores, but GameTime's getting, you know, he's a master of picking stuff off and getting the damage that he needs done. And actually, spores are a little worse against Mutas now. They take 4 shots instead of 3.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, they got a little bit nerfed. They aren't the
Captain teaches StarCraft.
They're no longer the mutilators.
The mutilators.
That they once were. However, they are still quite effective. I mean, you can't, with only, you know, 10 or so mutas, you can't just barrel down into spore crawlers very well.
Right, but we are up to a pretty high count. I guess we're just above 10. Sacrilege was able to pick up that third right after knocking down the rocks under cover of Nightfall. Did finish up his own Spire, so we'll see if he's able to hold. Nope.
just taps out. These guys they're calling the GGs real quick. Then again, Sacrilege was quite a ways down on workers and army, so it does make sense. He has to tap out, give it up to GameTime, which it's not. I mean, it's not an upset at all, I would think, or I would say, like, GameTime is that's kind of why I put him as master level. He hasn't played a lot of Legacy of the Void, but some Heartless Swarm CVZ strategies are still effective. So GameTime pulling out that 2-1 over Sacrilege. Let me go ahead and